Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you to raise the bar on your own performance and to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's episode. Greetings, everyone. It's Hugh Ballou, founder and president of CenterVision Leadership Foundation, transforming leaders, transforming organizations, transforming lives. We've been doing this work for 32 years, and there's been some amazing work that nonprofits do. Nonprofits include local charities, include religious organizations, educational organizations, lots of different entities. We're a for-purpose enterprise. We're focused on the purpose of philanthropy, helping others, doing others. It's the love of humankind. And I have a very special guest today. We've had all kinds of guests in the seven and a half years we've been doing the Nonprofit Exchange. I don't think we've ever had a university president. And so we have a university president right here in Lynchburg, Virginia. And she's not a native of Virginia, and you'll learn when she talks about herself. So welcome, Dr. Alison Morrison-Shetlar, to the Nonprofit Exchange. And please tell people about who you are and what's your passion for leading.
Well, first of all, thanks very much for inviting me, Hugh. This is a great opportunity, and I love talking about leadership. So that's it's always fun to be able to do that. And I look forward to questions if anyone has them as we go through this interview. So I am originally from Scotland, hence the accent, although a lot of people say I don't have an accent anymore, but that's not true. When I go back to Scotland, they definitely know I have an accent. And so I have been in higher education now for about 38 years. And I started teaching during my PhD, which I did in Dundee, Scotland. And then was fortunate enough to go and work in London for 3 years, where I really got involved in the arts and the whole theatre scene there while doing research. I'm a biologist by training, and I had a great fortune after being in London for about 3 years, moving to Germany. And I moved to a Max Planck Institute there to do research. Was there for about 7 years, met my husband there. And he is from Kansas, by the way. So that's always an interesting story that can be held for later times. He's also a biologist. And we were there together for 6 years and then came to the United States. And I have worked in some fabulous places. Started off at Wesleyan University in Connecticut. I moved to Georgia Southern University and then the University of Central Florida in Orlando, before then moving to Elon University. My last gig was at Western Carolina University as provost and interim chancellor, and then moved to the University of Lynchburg to be the president. So my passion is in leadership in higher education, and I have had a wonderful career. Being able to help support transformation of institutions, and really enjoyed the whole career trajectory that has led to me to be at the University of Lynchburg, which is an amazing private institution in Lynchburg, Virginia, with about 3,100 students. About a third of those are graduate students. And we do a lot of leadership development at the university, and of course have a very strong nonprofit program there too.
Absolutely. Dr. Jimmy Rue is a close friend of mine, and he's very passionate about what he does as well.
Absolutely, he's fantastic.
Absolutely, you're fortunate to have him. So you're actually a leader of leaders. I had the pleasure of working with all your deans at one point under your previous provost, and it's a high-performing group. And I've had, as my previous position as president of the Lynchburg Symphony, I had an opportunity to work with many of your musicians. Who became dear friends. And so I know that your programs are really high caliber, and not only are your professors, your adjunct faculty, and your deans skilled, but they're really passionate about the work in a small university. And Lynchburg, if people don't know, it's in the western side of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we're in the Blue Ridge Mountains. That we can look on both sides of Lynchburg and see the mountains. So, and it's a town of 80-something thousand people,
I guess you have to add the different universities to that population. But it's a really nice sized city. It's not too big, not too small. So you came here to visit, and I guess when you had the conversations, it was before the pandemic hit. So at what point did you say yes, before the pandemic or during the pandemic? At what point in that timing? We're talking to you sort of at the tail end of the pandemic, we think. So if you're listening to this podcast in some other year, we're broadcasting in June of 2021. So what's the timing of you saying yes, and what was the hook that said, yes, I want to come here?
So my interview, actually on-campus interview, was in October of 2019. And I just fell in love with the city of Lynchburg, the surrounding area, and the people that I met there. The actual announcement of my presidency happened in November of 2019. So I was very fortunate, Hugh, to be able to come to campus and visit campus regularly between November of 2019 and then when the pandemic hit in March of the next year, when things closed down. So I had the opportunity to come to basketball games and walk across the Dell on campus and get the opportunity to meet a lot of people before I actually came full time to Lynchburg, and that happened in July of 2020. And then I became the president on August 1st after President Guerin retired after 19 years. So it was just the environment, the people. The university itself is an amazing, comprehensive university grounded in the liberal arts. Tremendous passion for servant leadership in the community and on campus. And these are my values. These are the values that I hold dear to me and have been involved in all of my career. Also, our affiliation with the Disciples of Christ was really important, and the values the Disciples of Christ have that permeate the whole of our institution. So there was a lot of different things, but it was the people. It was the students. When I walked onto the Dell, sat in one of those wonderful red Adirondack chairs and started to have conversations with people, you could see the passion for the University of Lynchburg. You could see their passion for making a difference in the lives of others. And that's what our programs do. And so I knew I had come home when I sat in the Dell in that red Adirondack chair and talked with the SGA president, Davion Washington. And he said to me, well, you know, I love chatting with you in the Dell. And I said, I love these red Adirondack chairs. And that's what started the Red Chair Chats that I'm now doing regularly, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week with populations in the community and farther beyond. So red Adirondack chairs are our big thing on Lynchburg's campus.
The Red Chair Chats, you know, that's so important because for me, the anchor for leadership is in relationship. And so you came in, you didn't come into a disaster. Well, the pandemic was its own kind of thing, but Ken Guerin had certainly been a fine leader, and you came into a really strong university, a strong program, a really well-run institution. Now, so you didn't have to come and fix things, but you've come in, and its rotation is really good because it lets a new leader come in with new vision and can grow, add their skills to those that preceded. And so you're in a good situation, but we had this thing called a pandemic, which kind of makes things iffy. So what is the biggest challenge in leading coming out of that kind of situation? There's a lot of leaders that are frustrated. A lot of leaders are thinking about quitting. A lot of leaders saying, I don't know what to do. So what is the wisdom you have to share with people about how do we take this and make opportunities out of crisis and move forward?
Firmly believe never waste a good crisis, Hugh. So there are great opportunities to look at things a little differently. I think the pandemic has given us some tremendous opportunities to do things that we hadn't thought about or were thinking about but hadn't quite got to. And so coming into the university, the first thing that I had that was marvelous was a very, very strong leadership team. They're called the Executive Council, and they're all my VPs and the athletic director that report directly to me. And I mentioned, I started coming to the university in November of 2019. Right from the get-go, every time I came to campus, the leadership team got together and we started to talk about the future of the institution. And the many conversations that I had between November and March, and then when I went online and had even more conversations with alumni and current and previous faculty and staff and community members, three things emerged from those conversations. It was leadership development, innovation and collaboration, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those have become the three pillars of my presidency. And these didn't come just from me, they came from those conversations, and they came from the previous strategic plan. And so coming into the university, it was wonderful to be able to say, so what are we doing in leadership development? How can we enhance that? I know we're an innovative campus, so what can we do even more to be innovative? How can we use what we've learned during the pandemic to really strengthen and deepen what's happening on our campus and in our community? And so my leadership team, just fabulous people, dedicated to the success of the institution, working really hard all together to move us in the same direction and make sure that we attain the goals that we've set. So for me, having that leadership team in place then allowed me to see their leadership potential and management styles and how they worked with their leaders. And across campus, I would say every single person at the University of Lynchburg is a leader and takes pride and passion in the success of the institution. You couldn't ask for a better team to come into.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of those people, and you are so right. They are committed to the job that they're doing. Every one of them that I know. I, of course, don't know them all. So the title of this interview you gave us is Reimagining University of Lynchburg. And so I'm a Methodist. My wife works for the Lynchburg district of the Methodist Church, and Methodists have this rotation system. And so you've got a new leader coming in and who's got their gifts and their talents. So as you reimagine, so there's a, how do we respect the systems in place, but then how do we add our skills on top of that? So as you reimagine, you've come into a really strong situation. So for leaders that are maybe starting in a new position and they see some opportunities, there's got to be some sacred cows or some traditions that you have to understand before you start to want to change. Now you've been there almost a year now, I think. So what does reimagine mean, and how do you respect tradition, but then how do you help people transform to embrace your vision for the future?
I think you always have to keep the mission of your institution very much at the heart of what your discussions entail. And for me, again, keeping the mission of this institution was easy because it's something that I wanted to be here. I wanted to move the institution forward. So taking your mission and making sure that what you're doing is mission centric is really important. Because sometimes you do get mission drift. You start to think about, well, maybe we'll go in this direction or this direction. And you have to think a little bit about, is that really what we're here to do? And the University of Lynchburg is such a special place. Everyone who comes there, students, faculty, and staff say that it's a special place. There's a secret sauce at Lynchburg. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is definitely something that keeps people there, that they want to be there, they're successful when they're there. And a lot of it has to do, quite honestly, with leadership development and making sure that we're giving people the skills, the abilities, the opportunities, and the resources that they need to be successful. And so for me, again, coming in, having had all these conversations, I knew that if we were going to continue on this upward and forward trajectory, we had to sort of rethink what we were doing. And the pandemic has actually, as I said earlier, sort of promoted a lot of those kinds of things. How are we interacting with each other? Well, face-to-face classrooms was the essence, or one of the essence of being at the University of Lynchburg. And in March, that all went away. So face-to-face, but what is the key component of face-to-face? It's those relationships, the relationships that the faculty have with the students. It's the relationships that the staff have with the students in out of classroom types of experience. And so we define the Lynchburg experience as a group of experiences that allow students to grow and develop, and at the same time, the faculty and staff grow and develop alongside. So in reimagining is building on the foundation, but then looking for those opportunities to move something forward in exciting ways. And the three pillars that I mentioned earlier, they've garnered a lot of excitement on campus because people see themselves in those 3 pillars and see how they can contribute. I think that's the key. You want everybody to see that they have a part in the future of an institution. And that creates that excitement, that synergy, that energy, and that forward movement.
Very, very well stated. Speaking of students, we do have a university classroom watching under the tutorage of Bob Hopkins. He's their professor, and he's a thought leader, author, and a primary philanthropist. And so we'll give a shout out to that class, because they're going to gather some questions maybe later. And so to be in a class, in a university class, and listen to a university president talk about what's it like from your side to run this institution, because everybody has answers to how things ought to go, but there's only one leader, and that leader sees it from, a holistic perspective. So let's drill into leadership. I find that's one of the most misunderstood words in our vocabulary. And everybody has got a definition of leadership. So I'm going to change my background a minute from Center Vision to another background. When you and I first contacted each other, I was president of Lynchburg Symphony. And so here's me at a Christmas concert in front of the symphony. You listen to the podcast, it's Hugh Ballou at the Academy Theater in front of orchestra chorus in 2018 and 2019, directing the symphony. So people, let me give you just a couple of things and ask you to respond to what we teach here in Center Vision, see if you got some synergy with that or you got a better idea. So people perceive that a conductor is a dictator. Well, I got to tell you, you got a little white stick and you got a bunch of union musicians that are professionals. You can't make anybody do anything. So one of the most misunderstood concepts of the leader is that they're the boss and they tell everybody what to do. And when actually, in my world, the leader is the influencer. And there's 4 pillars. You influence people because you have a strong foundation, you know where you're going, and you're very clear on your mission and your skill set. 2, you've listened, you've built relationships. So you got to have a pillar of the foundation of where you're going and your relationships. 3rd, you can't do anything unless you have effective systems. So we know how to rehearse. And the 4th one's care for self. If you're not balanced and come to the workplace as a balanced person that's rested and ready to go and clear, you can't do anything else. So respond to any of that as Hugh's transformational leadership principles. What is that? How do you respond to that in your world?
I think it's very much the same. The key there is listening, not just listening to what you're doing, but listening to what others are doing and how you bring that together. So I see a university as a fabulous symphony. You can't have one more important instrument than another, right? They all are working together. They all have to be really good at what they do. And everything that somebody does should be respected and valued because it contributes to the larger entity, which in my case is the institution. And so a lot of similarities in running a university. You've got to know my own abilities, the things I'm good at, the things I'm not good at. Surround yourself with people who have strengths and characteristics that you might not have, right? So again, it's not all violins, it's not all obas, it's, you've got to bring a group of people together and they have strengths and you've got to allow them to express those strengths and listen to them and make sure that there's harmony in what you're doing. Because if you have discord, whether it's in a symphony or in an institution, then if it continues, a discord can reveal new ideas and new things. But if you ultimately are moving in the right direction, eventually that harmony comes out of that discord and things move forward. So I see myself as a servant leader. And if I sort of layer servant leadership on what you've just talked about, Hugh, then I see my role as leading from in front sometimes. So I've got the baton. I'm bringing people together. We're singing the same tune. We're moving in the same direction. And sometimes you just have to be out front and you have to gather people. And you have to be the champion or the face for a particular cause or institution. Leading from beside is where you can bring people with different strengths around the table, really listen to what they're saying, helping them, give them resources to maybe understand different perspectives. But there's that opportunity to come together to be able to support each other and recognize that we come with different strengths and different personalities and different opportunities. My favorite place is leading from behind. And that's when I see strength in others. And if there's an opportunity, then I'd rather put them forward to be leading from in front or leading from beside. I want to make sure they have the resources that they need, that they get the respect and are valued for what they do, and that they get the accolades. They are the ones that get told you did a great job and really appreciate you for what you're doing. And so putting that on top of your model, Hugh, is again, very synergistic. It's making sure that everybody contributes to the whole, that everybody's voice is heard, that we respect diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we respect innovation, but collaboration is what makes things happen. And so moving things forward in a collaborative spirit with expertise that I may have or may not have is how I have grown as a leader and how I have helped others grow as leaders.
You are an energy field. You're visionary, you're passionate, you're committed, and you're gracious. And it's time, and it's been past time, but you've stepped up. It's a new era for women leaders who bring a different kind of expertise to the workplace. And I'm so glad that you're here in Lynchburg, and what you're bringing is a different kind of energy, different kind of strength, and a different kind of vision, because it's not the same old thing. It's building on tradition, but it's giving it a fresh look. So I'm so pleased that you've come to Lynchburg and that you've allowed me to let you share on the Nonprofit Exchange today. Nonprofit Exchange is a weekly interview series that you can find anywhere that you get podcasts, the Nonprofit Exchange, or you can go to on your browser, nonprofitexchange.org, and that will take you to a landing page for the shows on the Nonprofit Exchange. And I love the quote by the British composer, conductor Ralph Vaughan Williams, who said, music did not reveal all of its secrets to just one person. And you could say that about education. You could say it about leadership. You could say it about a number of things. So even though we've had guests on the same topic, like leadership today, we get different stories because there's a different perspective. So there's a whole lot of background and wisdom in how you share and how you come to this opportunity. And it's who we are is a collection of what we've done through history. Let's talk about collaborations for a minute. I believe that's the second most misunderstood word in our language. Collaboration. How do you build bridges? I mean, you've spoken at some organizations like my Rotary Club in the city of Lynchburg. It's not a huge place, but it's a very diverse place. So how are you building connections, and how do you see collaboration enhancing the work that everybody does together, or separately and together?
Well, the great thing about coming into a community is you can have to learn about the community before you can start to really see how you could make an impact on that community. Again, it was wonderful, largely because I was online, that I was talking to community members very easily, sometimes an hour at a time, one-on-one, getting really in-depth understanding of what was happening in the city of Lynchburg and the region. And I'm not too sure if I had done that face-to-face, if I'd been able to meet as many people as I actually have. And that sounds strange because it is all about relationships, and those relationships are often built by being in the same room together and having conversations. And as I said, I did have that opportunity prior to the pandemics hitting us in March to meet quite a few of the community members. But I used the technology and reached out to people and said, I'd love to talk to you. What are the needs of the institution? And the University of Lynchburg is Lynchburg's university. We are there to serve our community. And so how can we do that? Are we doing it well? And I wanted to understand. So I did a lot of listening. I've probably spoken to about 300 community members parents of students, students themselves who have graduated and are in the community, and just got a really good feel for the city of Lynchburg and the region. And from that, I had the opportunity to do what I call as a convening. I love to bring people together around the table. I love to have people talk about what the needs of the community are. And I've been working with some fabulous people, Reverend Owen Cardwell and Dr. Roger Jones. And the three of us, along with Trinae Tweeney and Ed Holloway, got together quite a while ago and thought, how can the University of Lynchburg really step up and be more involved in the university? And so we generated a group that will be fully announced later on this month called Lynchburg Tomorrow. And Lynchburg Tomorrow is actually a convening of influencers in the city who are interested in coming together and working together to help the city be more successful, to identify areas of need and see where our students, who are also servant leaders and very much involved in service learning, internships and practicums within the community, how they can continue to give back through their programs, working with their faculty, but to make a difference in the lives of others in the community. And so Lynchburg Tomorrow has really started to bring some amazing things together, whether we're dealing with healthy foods, access to affordable health care, leadership development. These are the three main things that have emerged from Lynchburg Tomorrow, where leaders have said, these are the kinds of things that we need in our community and how can we work together to do it. So it's been fabulous. And I've learned so much about the community. I've learned so much about the needs of the community. And it's not a case of coming in and saying, we're here to help, let us help you. It's what do you need? And how can we use the expertise on our campus to make sure that your needs are met? So that's been hugely exciting. And again, got me into the community in a time where I wasn't there physically, but I really feel like I'm part of the community now.
I guess so. That's magical. Lynchburg, just for people to have a benchmark, before the Civil War was one of the wealthiest cities. I mean, I think it's the second in the country. And now, I don't know what the current statistics are. I think we got the highest percentage poverty in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And in my zip code, which is 01, it's even higher than Lynchburg. It's about 41%. And I think everywhere I've lived, in multiple places, I used to move to a new job when I was a music director at megachurches, so I would go different places. But every city where I lived, I wondered why organizations didn't work together. And I think collaboration is misunderstood. It's how do we have this, let's give to you, and then how do people give back to you? So I don't know if people want to be protected, especially in the nonprofit sector, we want to be protective of our volunteers and our donors and stuff, when actually, if we learn to collaborate, the pool of, people volunteer at more than one nonprofit and people give to more than one nonprofit. What if you put your efforts together? You could actually impact more people's lives and leverage those dollars to go further. So what wisdom would you have to share with listeners about how do you approach a collaboration, and how do you have that active listening conversation with people?
I think you bring people together around a common goal, and you make sure that everybody understands what your goals are. And if people are not interested in that goal, then they don't come to the table. If they are interested in the goal, then it takes the idea of it. So how are we going to get to that goal? I'm a great believer in starting with the end in mind. So what is it that you want to achieve? And then how do you pull that back to be able to say who needs to be at the table to be able to achieve those goals? And so one of the things that for me, collaboration, as I said, is really part of the convening process. I bring people together around a common goal, and then set a framework where everyone can have the opportunity to just brainstorm freely about the needs of the institution or the community. And from there, you start to see themes emerging. And through Lynchburg Tomorrow, we basically had 3 or 4 themes that just emerged from the very first 3-hour conversation we had with 21 influencers in the community. We honed that down to say, okay, if these are our themes, what is our asset mapping towards those themes? So who's involved in access to healthy food, for example? Who's involved in healthcare? And then once you decide these are the things that you want to, how can the influencers bring the right people to the table through another convening to say, okay, here's our goal. We want people to have access to healthy food. Who are the people who are doing that? Bring them together and see how we can work together. And that's where Lynchburg Tomorrow, I think, is becoming very successful. We're bringing people together who have been in silos, who have been doing their own thing, working with their own population. But it's been hard to assess the total impact of that. And so through asset mapping, you can bring the right people to the table, you can have the conversation. University of Lynchburg is a neutral entity, right? And so having a neutral entity means that it can be a free flow of an exchange of ideas and information. So again, collaboration, you need to have the willingness to collaborate to start with. And once you get that, having a goal in mind and then working towards that goal will mean that you will be successful. But being able to assess that you've been successful, I think, is one of the things that we find very, very hard to do. We like our programs, we want them to be successful. And maybe if they're not as successful as we think they should be, maybe our data is not being used the way it should be. And that's where, again, the strength of the university is. We have a tremendous number of people who can help assess whether something is working or not. And then not say, well, you shouldn't do that, but to say, here's things that are obviously more successful than other areas. So let's focus on those and impact more people. For me, collaboration in the community is making a difference in the lives of others. And we need to be able to show that we can do that.
Absolutely. Oh, that is such a refreshing vision and articulation of that. People talk about it, but don't really pull it off because they don't have that understanding of the value and how it values everybody. It's a win-win. So I want to talk about care of leader. We're going to take a sponsor moment here, but I want to talk about self-care, personal growth. How do you manage yourself? Those kinds of topics. And I'll leave this part and come back. James Allen wrote a little book, As a Man Thinketh, back when it was all male dominant language, and he said, leaders, I'm going to translate this. People want to transform or to change their circumstances. People want to change their circumstances, but are unwilling to change themselves. They therefore remain bound. So I want you to talk about, hey, how do I open up my horizons as a leader, and how do I get feedback that's going to help me? One of our sponsors that allows us to do programs that are free is WordSprint. WordSprint is a printer, but WordSprint is actually a mail house. And so we publish a nonprofit performance magazine. Here's the New Army. Here's our friend Frank Shankowitz, a motorcycle policeman that started a nonprofit. Well, our magazine goes to people that get the print copy in an envelope like this. And WordSprint understands nonprofit mailings. They do mailings for universities all over the country and nonprofits. They understand the power of people having something in their hands. And so what we're doing is letting our sponsor WordSprint help us build our constituency, but we're also giving people a chance to connect with nonprofit leaders, people who, this is the third largest industry in our country. Nonprofits raise and spend $1.65 trillion before the pandemic. And with the revamping of nonprofits, I'm betting, like you said, it's an opportunity to rethink things. So it's a massive 10 million, it's at 1.6 million nonprofits in this country. So if you have a business enterprise or an entity and you want to connect with that market, we have a way to get you connected. So email me. My name is Hugh Ballou. It's hugh@hughballou.com, and we'll have a conversation. But go to wordsprint.com because they can help you stay in touch with your tribe. It's this top of mind marketing. Let them know what you're doing with their donations. This is the relationship building that's so important that leaders do. We stay in touch with people who support us. So Dr. Alison, it's tough being a leader. It's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's a duty and a delight, but it's hard work because you got to make decisions. How do you continue working on your skills? How do you care for yourself as a leader in this high profile position that you have?
Well, leadership is a lonely place if you let it be lonely. And so I'm always very careful that I find people that I can share my thoughts and ideas with in complete confidence, often people that are not affiliated with the university, but then I can brainstorm and talk a little bit about what is going on without attributions, of course, but to be able to get that context of, am I doing the right thing? Are these decisions that are ultimately being made the right thing for the university? And I will say having a strong leadership team is so very important for one's own self-care. And why I say that is that if you have a strong team who know their work, they know what they're supposed to be doing, they're working very closely with the rest of the team. When they make recommendations to me, they've been carefully vetted, they've been carefully thought about. I'm a data-driven person, so I love to have data to back up any decision that's going to be made. And once all that comes together, when that team comes together with a recommendation, then I feel strongly that I can come to it maybe with fresh eyes, I can question, I can seek new perspectives. But at the end of the day, the decision is not really made by one person. A good decision is made over time with lots of perspectives. And so I'm very, very fortunate that I have a strong team that really makes sure that we are moving in the same direction and that they're working together. For my own self-care, I love to be outdoors. And if you've been on the Lynchburg campus, you know that it's a beautiful, beautiful area, and the dale is beautiful and you can walk all around, but there's also trails associated with the university. And then of course the Clayton Nature Center, which is in Bedford County. And it's 491 acres of just fabulous land at the base of the peaks of Otter. So when I need to think, Hugh, when I need to get away a little bit, I go for walks. I can walk around the dell and be reflective and to think about what decisions are going to do to impact the institution. Are they the right decisions? Talk with people. I love meetings by walking. I love leadership by walking. So I love to go to other people's units or offices and talk with them there. And for me, it's great to get out of the office. It's great to have these kinds of conversations because it gives you different perspectives. And nature just grounds me. So my self-care is making sure that I get some exercise, that I walk. But most of the time while I'm doing that, I'm thinking about the future of the institution. I'm thinking about the right things to do. And some of those hard decisions, as you say, have to be made. But if they're grounded in good data, if they're grounded after great conversation with different perspectives, I can sleep at night with the decisions that we make at the University of Lynchburg, knowing that it's the right thing for the university.
Love it, love it. So shall we see if we have any questions from people that are viewing? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I'm going to see if I can connect with Bob Hopkins, who's got a class. Bob, are you hearing me?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have students that are watching Dr. Shetlar today?
We do. I have 8 fabulous students. I don't know them well. Our first day was yesterday. They walked in today not knowing exactly what to expect today, and I didn't know either until I talked to you, wondering how I was going to get on your 1 o'clock. And fortunately, you allowed me to bring my students.
Yay, yay. So have you and your students generated any questions for our guest today?
Yes, we have, and I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, here we go. Here's a question from a student.
Hi, Dr. Alison.
A little bit closer to the microphone, please.
Can you hear me?
Barely. A little bit closer to the computer, please. And Bob, you could also just repeat the question if you want them to give you a question.
Okay, she wants to know how to start her own nonprofit organization and to be a good leader of that organization.
So I think your phone is giving feedback to your computer on the sound loop.
Okay, did you understand the question?
Yes, I think she's got the expert in that as her teacher, but there are certain leadership aspects. So Dr. Allison, what kind of advice would you have? And you do have a strong nonprofit leadership graduate program, University of Lynchburg. They should come to University of Lynchburg and enroll. So what's another answer?
Oh, I like that answer a lot. We do have a very strong nonprofit leadership program, and Jimmy Rue is absolutely an amazing faculty member and does a tremendous amount with the students in the community as well. To me, to start a nonprofit, you really need to make sure that you are meeting a need. A lot of people start and say, well, I need to be able, I want to be able to do this because I have a passion for it. But if you don't know that that is a need within your community, then it would be really difficult to start something that was going to be successful. I think the other thing about starting a nonprofit and leadership in a nonprofit is working with others in that area so that you're not duplicating, but actually enhancing the experience that you want to provide. And we were talking earlier, access to healthy food. In Lynchburg, there's a lot of organizations that are working on poverty, food insecurities, for example. And they, working together, they can have a greater impact. They may not actually even be impacting the same population, but together they can have a greater synergy. And so when you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, think about the need. Think about whether you can deliver that, whatever the support is, and then how can you sustain it? Because it's easy to start something and have an immediate impact, but how can you sustain it over time? University of Lynchburg's been around since 1903. So we're pretty good at sustaining the educational model towards our population. However, education has changed. And if you're not willing to then change the way you do things to match that changed population, then again, it's not going to be a sustainable model. So higher education, we're always changing. In nonprofits, you always have to change. You have to be aware of what's happening. You have to be aware of your impact. And as I mentioned earlier on, if you do asset mapping in a particular area of interest, you can find the other organizations that are doing the same kind of thing and work together with them to have that greater synergistic impact.
Good. And I do know that when Jimmy Rue interviews people that want to start, he has those kinds of questions to help them think through. So that's very consistent. So Bob, do you have another one? We can.
I do. This is Andrew. He's going to ask a question.
Hi, I just had a quick question, and it was, as a leader, how do you differ from the potential and purpose for individuals on your team, or like calling out potential and purpose just to push the vision forward?
So I think I heard potential and purpose.
Yes. So like as a leader, how do you differ from calling out the potential and purpose for individuals on your team?
I'm not sure I understand the question either.
Well, the way I'm interpreting that is, how do you identify the potential that people have, and how can you help them become the strong leaders that you think that they can become? And I think that's if that is the essence of what you're talking about, being able to identify somebody's strengths and then providing them the opportunities to hone those strengths is a great part of being a leader. You can provide people the resources to be successful. And a lot of people don't know that they have the potential to be a leader. And so identifying them and showing them that they do have those strengths and maybe providing those opportunities is something that is how I got to where I am today, quite honestly. I didn't think about being a president. I didn't think about being a provost or a dean or a chair or doing research for many, many years. It was through people that saw things in me that I didn't see in myself, but then provided me and opened the doors so that I could have new experiences. So I've been fortunate to live in Scotland, obviously, grew up there. Went to London to do research on skin grafting and growing skin for grafting purposes, and then moving to Germany after that. I would never have done that if somebody hadn't said, hey, I think you have the skills, I think you have the potential, why don't you come and join this team? And so it's nice to be in a leadership position to be able to say that to others and to step aside and let them grow and shine and be a positive impact and make a difference in the life of others. That's a great thing to do as a leader.
That's a probably bigger question he thought of, but it is a great question. Thank you, Andrew, for asking that. And, you know, as I think back, I'll be 75 this year. I had plenty of opportunities when I was nothing but potential. And there were people that said, oh, I think you can do it. And then I walked into that space. So it's important for leaders to give opportunities for other leaders. So Bob, can we have one more?
Yes, we do. This is McKenna.
Howdy, I have a question about, so this being a private university, do y'all have any Christian leadership or ministry programs?
So thank you for the question. We are affiliated with the Disciples of Christ and have been for a long, long time. And so we have other ministries on campus as well. We are welcoming of all faiths, and we want people to be valued and respected for who they are when they come to the campus, regardless of their affinity group. And so we want to make sure that we are providing these resources for people to find their opportunity for self-growth, self-reflection, and for them to continue their passion. So that's our focus, is with the Disciples of Christ. But again, we want to make sure that everyone feels respected and valued for what they contribute to the university.
So in addition to being a professor, Bob Hopkins is an author, and his book is Philanthropy Misunderstood. And Bob, we'll have to make sure that the president here has a copy of this book. I've given all of mine, but I will make sure that we have an address to send it to. It's a marvelous book, and it has full of stories of wonderful philanthropists. So Bob, do you have a question for our guest today?
Yeah, I really appreciate this topic. And maybe we'll do this every Tuesday, Hugh, because I think this is really valuable for our students to understand and know, to actually hear from a leader like Dr. Allison. I'm very curious about this idea of what kind of people yet you surround yourself with. I haven't talked to the students about that, but I usually tell them, you know, if they're smarter than you, then you need to be hanging around them. If they're not quite to your level and lower, you probably need to rethink your associations. You might be wasting your time. So you need to find people smarter than you. What do you think about how you pick the people that you hang around?
Well, I think there's two things that happen. Sometimes you actually come into a team that's already formed, as I did at the University of Lynchburg, and immediately see that they have amazing strengths and that together they work very, very well in support of the future of the institution. When you're building a team, then it's an opportunity to, again, identify strengths that you might not have. And I have built teams, I've inherited teams, teams have changed under my leadership, depending on the direction that you want to go in. The main thing I agree with you, Bob, is that you want to surround yourself with people that don't have the same characteristics as you have, or maybe have them, but they look at things in a different way. And so I use the metaphor of looking through different lenses. Let's have a problem and bring a group of people who can look at a problem from different lenses, because the ideas that are generated from those different perspectives is often much, much better than the original idea that was put on the table. And so building your team is a really, really great thing to do. And sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes people think that they want to be part of your team. And then when they actually get involved, they see maybe this is not for them. And that's okay. I don't see that as a failure. I don't see that as anything other than a learning experience. So every time you go into a team, the learning experience that happens can always help you grow and develop. Even if at the time it feels a little negative, I think it's still a good thing. And I will close by saying that I think the thing that people don't think a lot about when they bring a team together is it's great to have people that read against the grain, is the term that I use, Maybe don't go with the flow, criticize, maybe sometimes forcefully. And some people shy away from that because they see that as discord and disagreement. I see it as, again, looking at things from a different lens. And I listen very, very carefully to those people who do not agree with me, because often they can be correct and I can change my mind. Another key characteristic of a good leader, someone that can change their mind based on the evidence that they have.
Perfect, Bob. That's really good. We're going to move from Dallas, Texas to Bedford, Virginia. Bob, remind me what the institution is where you're teaching today.
I'm at Collin College, which is a 4-year university, but it's called Collin College.
Thank you, and thank your students for being here. I'm going to go to Mr. Rash in Bedford, Legacy International. And so welcome today. And you had your hand up. What would you like to ask today? Okay, I might have him in. You're here twice. Let me see. Okay, Mr. Rash.
Okay, I think we have it now, right? Well, first of all, I want to apologize because of the signals and the storm that we're having here. I don't know if you're having it in Lynchburg, 15 miles away from us, but here we are. Thank you, Dr. Alison, for your beautiful presentation and your insights, which we resonate totally with. I do have a question for you, but I have to precede that with some parental pride, if you don't mind, because both my daughters, Sabrina and Samaritan Rash, graduated from the University of Lynchburg, where they received a superb education. And Sabrina, who was in the Westover Honors Program, went on to and received her master's from GW, University of International Relations, and Sama, who was the Hill Awardee biology major, by the way, and first in her class a year ago, will be going for her master's at Yale in public health. And in addition, my wife, Mitra, who I think is on today, I'm not sure, has been teaching at the Westover program and at times in IR. So this year, you know, I believe we've had, thanks to Mitra, 4 interns from the university at our international nonprofit, Legacy International. So you see, we have roots at the University of Lynchburg, and I just want to thank you, because thanking you isn't sufficient. We're committed to supporting you in the university, and we're so happy that you are there, and I'm grateful that you're here today. So now to my question after that sort of parental intervention. Our work at Legacy International for 4 decades has been at the forefront of change across many areas in STEM education for women, and entrepreneurship and social innovation and public health and science, technology, et cetera. And you can of course see that work online. But here we are today at an inflection point in so many areas, environmentally, socially, politically, culturally. And I've always felt that the focus must be more on comprehensive pluralistic education, a long view to changing entrenched attitudes and a lack of knowledge, especially of the other, in quotation marks. I know this is a big challenge at universities. Students tend to silo their interests. You've spoken about that. What are you encouraging your staff and your faculty to do to address the pressing issues of this time, whilst being aware of the need for balance and, of course, the political correctness that is always hanging over the head of the universities and faculty members? You know, I realize you're from Scotland, and I'm sure your view of education is from a different perspective, and you've been speaking brilliantly about different perspectives, which I fully embrace for the last four decades. And since we work on 5 continents, not only with international staff, but a history of cross-cultural and international necessities, curriculum development, presentation of new ideas, acceptance, breaking down those silos is really important. You know, tell me about your if you don't mind me asking, tell me about your approach to this inflection point that we find ourselves in, both academically and socially.
You got about a 3-hour answer we got to do in 5 minutes. What's a big question?
Well, I'm happy to engage us in a private conversation too.
But I'll connect you. So go ahead, Dr. Alison.
Well, thank you for the question. And yes, it's great to hear the family connections. And of course, I know some of those. So thank you very much. And thanks for your question as well, because it's tough in these days to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And the main thing about a liberal arts education is that it comes from lots of different perspectives. Liberal arts education is not a series of courses, to my mind. Liberal arts education is a way of teaching, helping people think through the difficult things that are happening. So the racial injustices, making sure that we have comprehensive and courageous conversations. And we have a fabulous leader at the University of Lynchburg in Dr. Robert Canada, who's our VP for Inclusive Excellence. And to be able to be nimble enough to say, this is happening in the world today, so let's talk about it today or tomorrow, not let's wait a month or 2 months or put it into our curriculum for next semester. And so universities have to be nimble. Any educational system, I think, needs to be nimble if you're going to address social issues as they occur. The one thing about being a president is that everybody wants you to comment on everything. And that then becomes something that sort of dilutes, I think, the message that you're trying to send. I mentioned before, in a liberal arts education, everybody's points of view need to be listened to, they need to be heard, and then they need to be synthesized into your beliefs and your the data that you have. But you've got to have that conversation. It's not a conversation with yourself, it's a conversation with others, and that conversation has to be respectful. So one of the things that I've done throughout my career is create environments where people can have respectful conversations, can learn from each other, they can respectfully disagree with each other, but they have to listen. They have to learn that ability to synthesize information that they may not agree with, they may not have heard before, and then reflect on that and see how that affects them personally. Our curriculum, interdisciplinarity, I think, is key. And that's, again, a wonderful thing about the liberal arts education, is that you really get to see an issue through multiple disciplinary perspectives. And so when you go to one class and you're talking about the history of something, you go to another class and you could be talking about the science of that same thing. And so it's a rounded education. It's not a siloed education. So at the University of Lynchburg, as you know, we really do react and discuss and interact with social issues at a pretty high level and at a great depth. And then that helps our students when they go into the community and have to see some of these social issues actually occurring. They are much, much more able to then address it, react to it, and be appropriately involved in helping support move that social justice issue forward. And we have amazing centers on our campus that allow anybody to find a passion and then follow that passion, again, by coming together with people who may have different voices and different opinions, but then can respectfully listen and learn from them.
Great answer, great answer. And I will be sure to connect you, and maybe we can meet down at his, I was there last Thursday and was quite amazed at the work that Legacy International has been doing and is doing, and it is a legacy that's very important in our world. And the work of nonprofits is more important today than ever before. And we need to step forward. We can't expect others to do it. We can't expect the government to do everything. We can't expect business to do things. So forging ahead, looking at collaborations, public, private, corporate, nonprofit, education, whatever. So this is an inspiration for me as a leader to branch out from what I'm doing and to think in new ways. So you've been a very strong influence on me today, and I'm sure on others. Even though I've done this for a lifetime, I've learned things today. And it's amazing, all your talking points are exactly what we teach in Center Vision. So it's a really good track to be on, and thank you for sharing those today. What thought you want to leave people with, or a challenge or a tip? What do you want to leave people with today?
As a leader, you need to work with people. And we've talked about that many, many times. So the thought I would love to do is the University of Lynchburg is here to support and be with people, work alongside people to support the success of our community and our campus. And so I would love people to reach out to us. I'd love to talk with more people and be immersed in the community even more. Because to my mind, we are all on this planet to help make sure that we are successful, that our community is successful, that others are successful. And so if you are here listening to this today, or you're thinking about nonprofit leadership, starting a nonprofit, think about the impact that you can have and how you can sustain that impact, because we are here to make a difference in the lives of others. And if you can spend every day knowing that you're impacting other people's lives positively, then you're having a very good day.
Well-spoken words. You've been an inspiration today. Thank you so much for being our guest on the Nonprofit Exchange today.
Thank you very much. And it's been a fabulous opportunity to meet you all. And thank you for the questions from the students. And thank you again for inviting me.
Absolutely.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.